Saudi Aramco, officially the Saudi Arabian Oil Group or simply Aramco, is the state-owned petroleum and natural gas company of Saudi Arabia. Founded, 1933. Total assets, $664.8 billion. Revenue, $535.2 billion, 2022. Headquarters, Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. CEO, Amin H. Nasser, September 2015. Saudi Aramco's origins traced to the oil shortages of World War I and the exclusion of American companies from Mesopotamia by the United Kingdom and France under the San Remo Petroleum Agreement of 1920. The U.S. administration had popular support for an open-door policy, which Herbert Hoover, Secretary of Commerce, initiated in 1921. Standard Oil of California, SoCal, was among those U.S. companies seeking new sources of oil from abroad. Number 2. The National Iranian Oil Company is a government-owned national oil and natural gas producer and distributor under the direction of the Ministry of Petroleum of Iran. NIOC was established in 1948 and restructured under the Consortium Agreement of 1954. The NIOC is exclusively responsible for the exploration, drilling, production, distribution and export of crude oil, as well as exploration, extraction and sales of natural gas and liquefied natural gas, LNG. NIOC exports its surplus production according to commercial considerations determined by the OPEC and at the prices prevalent in the international markets. In early 2015, NIOC's recoverable liquid hydrocarbon reserves was 156.53 billion barrels, 24.886 cubic kilometers, 10% of world's total, and recoverable gas reserves were 33.79 by 1012 cubic meters, 15% of world's total. As at 2012, the NIOC production capacity included over 4 million barrels, 640 by 103 cubic meters, of crude oil and in excess of 750 million cubic meters of natural gas per day. Revenue oil and gas increase $110 billion, 2012. Total assets increase $200 billion, 2012. Owner Iranian government, 100%. Number of employees 87,500, 2018. Number 3. Qatar Energy, formerly Qatar Petroleum, is a state-owned petroleum company of Qatar. The company operates all oil and gas activities in Qatar, including exploration, production, refining, transport, and storage. The president and CEO is Saad Sharita Al-Kavi, Minister of State for Energy Affairs. After World War I and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Qatar fell within the British sphere of influence and the first onshore oil concession in the country was awarded in 1935 to British Petroleum's predecessor, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, AIOC. Because of its obligations under the Red Line Agreement, AIOC transferred the concession to an associate company of the Iraq Petroleum Company, Petroleum Development, Qatar, Limited, PDQ, which would operate the concession. PDQ was later renamed the Qatar Petroleum Company, QPC. In October 1938, Dukhan No. 1 was spudded and yielded 4,000 barrels per day, 640 cubic meters per day, by January 1940. However, World War II delayed development until 1947 and the first crude exports occurred in 1949. Revenue increase $52 billion, 2022. Net income increase $42.4 billion, 2022. Total assets increase $162 billion, 2022. Owner Government of Qatar. Number 4. The Iraq National Oil Company was founded in 1966 by the Iraqi government. It was empowered to operate all aspects of the oil industry in Iraq except for refining, which was already being run by the Oil Refineries Administration, and local distribution, which was also already under government control. Unlike the National Iranian Oil Company, the
the INOC was forbidden from entering into partnerships or granting concessions to foreign oil companies. Though there was discussion of allowing the French company Française de Pétroles, partners in IPC from whom the North Rumaila field had been appropriated, to enter into a contract to develop the field. Ultimately, with the help of the Soviet Union, the INOC opened the field on April 7, 1972.
In 1972, nationalization was complete.
In its first years of sole control, INOC managers succeeded in raising production in Iraq from 1.4 million barrels per day, 220,000 cubic meters per day, to over 3 million barrels per day, 480,000 cubic meters per day, in 1980. But the outbreak of war with Iran that year severely hit capacity. In April 1987, under newly appointed oil president Asfaq ul-Rashid, Decree 267 merged the INOC with the Oil Ministry, which became the direct operator in the industry as well as its regulator. At an operational level, the single national level company was broken into a series of regional companies, the largest among them being North Oil Company, based in Kirkuk, and South Oil Company, based in Basra.
Iraq oil revenues top $115 billion in 2022. Number 5. Petróleos de Venezuela, SA, acronym PDVSA, Petroleum of Venezuela, is the Venezuelan state-owned oil and natural gas company. It has activities in exploration, production, refining and exporting oil as well as exploration and production of natural gas. Since its founding on January 1, 1976, with the nationalization of the Venezuelan oil industry, PDVSA has dominated the oil industry of Venezuela, the world's fifth largest oil exporter. Revenue decreased $48.0 billion, 2016. Net income decreased $828 million, 2016. Total assets decreased $189.7 billion, 2016. Owner Government of Venezuela. Number of employees 70,000. Number 6. The Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, or ADNOC, is the state-owned oil company of the United Arab Emirates. As of 2021, the company has an oil production capacity exceeding 4 million BPD with plans to increase to 5 million BPD by 2030. ADNOC's output was roughly flat at about 2.5 million barrels per day during the 1990s. It stood at 2.9 MBPD in 2008. Although its financial indicators are difficult to assess as the company has been described as secretive, it has also been described as efficient and well-managed. ADNOC is one of few oil companies in the world to make a substantial investment to increase oil production amid growing pressure to reduce output due to climate change. ADNOC Gas reports revenue of $10.59 billion in H1 2023. Number 7. Pemex is the Mexican state-owned petroleum company managed and operated by the Mexican government. It was formed in 1938 by nationalization and expropriation of all private oil companies in Mexico at the time of its formation. Pemex had total assets worth $101.8 billion in December 2019 and as of 2009 was Latin America's second largest enterprise by annual revenue, surpassed only by Petrobras, the Brazilian national oil company. Revenue decreased $74.394 billion, 2019. Operating income decreased $1.965 billion, 2019. Net income decreased $-18.462 billion, 2019. Total assets decreased $101.800 billion, 2019. Total equity decreased $-105.980 billion, 2019. Owner Mexican government. Number of employees 124,818. Number 8. NNPC Limited is a for-profit oil company in Nigeria.
Formerly a government-owned corporation, it was transformed from a corporation to a limited liability company in July 2022.
NNPC Limited is the only entity licensed to operate in the country's petroleum industry.
NNPC was established on April 1, 1977 as a merger of the Nigerian National Oil Corporation and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum and Energy Resources. NNPC by law manages the joint venture between the Nigerian federal government and a number of foreign multinational corporations, which include Royal Dutch Shell, Egypt, ExxonMobil, Total Energies, Chevron, and Texaco, now merged with Chevron. Through collaboration with these companies, the Nigerian government conducts petroleum exploration and production.
Number 9. Libya. The National Oil Corporation is the national oil company of Libya.
It dominates Libya's oil industry, along with a number of smaller subsidiaries, which combined account for around 70% the country's oil output. Libya is a member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and holds the largest proven oil reserves in Africa, followed by Nigeria and Algeria, 41.5 GBBL, 6.60 by 109 cubic meters, as of January 2007, up from 39.1 GBBL, 6.22 by 109 cubic meters,
in 2006. About 80% of Libya's proven oil reserves are located in the Sirte Basin province, which accounts for 90% of the country's oil output.
The province ranks 13th among the world's petroleum provinces, having known reserves of 43.1 billion barrels, 6.85 by 109 cubic meters, of oil equivalent, 367,000,000,000 BBL, 0 cubic meters, of oil, 37.7 trillion cubic feet, 1.07 by 1012 cubic meters, of gas, 0.1 GBBL, 16 million cubic meters, of natural gas liquids. The government dominates Libya's economy through control of oil resources, which account for approximately 95% of export earnings, 75% of government receipts, and over 50% of GDP, which was $50.2 billion in 2006. Libya's net revenues from crude oil, gas, and petrochemical oil sales surpassed $5 billion in the second quarter of 2023. Number 10 is National Algerian Oil.
Sonatrach was founded on December 31, 1963.
At the time, however, the Algerian state held only 4.5% of the exploration perimeters, while French interests were as high as 67.5%. After the Arab-Israeli War in June 1967, Algeria decided to nationalize the refining and distribution activities of Mobil and Esso, and Sonatrach signed an agreement with Getty Oil on October 19, 1968, receiving 51% of Getty Oil's interests.
Sonatrach gained control over all Algerian petrochemical resources following President Houari Boumedienne's nationalization of all French oil and gas holdings beginning on February 24, 1971.
The old concession system was replaced by a seizure of a 51% share of French petroleum companies. Only Total Energies agreed to continue its activities, the other companies left Algeria.
Revenue $60 billion, 2022. Owner Algerian government.
Number of employees plus 200,000.